Tell me why some of us can set a perfectly healthy boundary and then spend the next 3 hours trying to make the other person feel better about it. Like now you're replaying the conversation, drafting follow up texts, adding extra emojis, over explaining, just trying to make sure they're okay. But meanwhile, nobody's really checking to see if you're okay. So I used to think I was bad at boundaries. Turns out I was addicted to making everybody else comfortable. And once I realized that, I really couldn't unsee it. Like, were any of you raised thinking a good woman was basically someone who's helpful, flexible, low maintenance? And somewhere along the way, I stopped asking, what do I need? And started asking, what would make this easier for everybody else? Which, sounds noble until you're exhausted, resentful, overcommitted, and secretly wondering why nobody seems to consider your needs. So even when I finally started setting boundaries, I would apologize for them. I would literally say, sorry, but like, sorry for what? Now, when I think about it, for being a human being, for having limits, like for instance, something happened at work recently where someone volunteered me for additional work that would have spilled into my weekend. Now, old Leah would have immediately started doing the math in her head. What if they think I'm not a team player? So and so sacrifices her weekends all the time. Why can't I do this? And there were some big wigs in this meeting. But now, Leah, because even though there's a side of me that wants to make it comfortable for others, I let them deal with their own choices because I chose the engineering team I'm on because there was a great work-life balance, no micromanagement. I had autonomy to get deliverables done, and I can build my digital wellness business, spend time with my loved ones, go to the gym, dance, clean, cook, whatever. So when someone on the team decides to alter their work-life balance to where it's all work, that has nothing to do with me. Finally realized that the discomfort wasn't coming from the boundary, because for years I thought peace came from keeping everybody happy. But what I realized is peace comes from being honest, even when honesty creates temporary discomfort. And I think that's why so many people misunderstand boundaries, because we picture boundaries as walls, like you're shutting people out, keeping them at a distance and building this fortress. But that's not how I think about boundaries anymore. I think boundaries are more like instructions, or maybe even windows. They let people see inside. They show people how to love you well. So think about a house. A house has doors, it has windows, it has locks, and it knows what belongs inside. Boundaries work the same way. They don't keep everybody out. They just help the right things stay in. Peace, respect, energy, time. And honestly, some of the resentment I carried before wasn't because people were constantly violating my boundaries. It was because I'd never communicated them. I mean, how can people honor limits they don't know exist? So, for instance, I used to feel so uncomfortable asking people to take their shoes off when entering my house because I'd feel their inconvenience. Then I would spend the entire time cringing at all the areas they were covering in their shoes so I would remember where to mop later. And like, why did it take me until my 40s to learn that no is a complete sentence? Like, where was this information? Like, so for some reason, I thought adulthood came with confidence, but it comes with a lot of unlearning. I don't think I needed boundary training. I just needed somebody to pull me aside at 25 and say, Leah, people will survive your disappointments. And you know what's funny? The women I know who seem the most peaceful aren't those who never disappoint anyone. They're the women who learned how to survive disappointing people. And the best lesson of all, I think boundaries are less about saying no to other people and more about saying yes to yourself. Because every time you abandon yourself to make somebody else comfortable, your body, your resentment, your exhaustion keeps score. And God loves a cheerful giver, right? So if I'm not cheerful about it, it doesn't even count. So now, when somebody asks me for something, I don't answer immediately. And that tiny pause has changed so much. A rushed response is expensive, right? It costs you time, energy, peace. sometimes resentment. So trying to belong teaches you some interesting things about keeping other people comfortable, especially when you're an immigrant. That's actually something I talk about in my Ethiopia episode, but that's a story for another day. So if setting boundaries feels uncomfortable, it doesn't automatically mean you're doing something wrong. Sometimes it just means you're practicing something new. And sometimes our brains don't like that. Sometimes it means you're finally choosing yourself. And maybe the goal isn't becoming a woman who never feels guilty, but becoming a woman who trusts herself enough to feel guilty for a few minutes and still do what's healthy. Stay on beat. Bye.